There. Let's get back to the party headquarters at the Liberal HQ. We've got former Liberal Party President Michael Kroger and our colleague Laura Jays, and at Labor HQ, our political reporter Simon Love and former senior advisor to Julia Gillard, Nick Rees. Let's go to Laura and Michael first of all. And the numbers very early on, but it looks like it could be a close one throughout the evening, Laura.
Yeah, we're watching that booth come in here with Michael Kroger, and he said that's a worry. I don't know so much about the demographics of Wantirna, but maybe talk us through that.
Well, working class area, high mortgage rate area, average weekly earnings, a real mortgage belt seat
more
area.
Labor area though?
Yeah, it could be 50-50. Would swing with the result, but we've now got an extra booth in, Laura, which shows a bit of a worry. We're down 4%. Labor's primary's up 9%, so that's 3 matched booths that are in, and that's profoundly disappointing. Very early on, there's 36 booths, but the early glimmer of hope has not shone out and not shone its way out on those two, unfortunately.
No, certainly not. Look, everyone I've spoken to, even in the last half an hour or so before we saw these results come in, they're still talking to me about the low voter turnout, as low as the 80s. Tom Connell just said it could even have a 7 in front of it. When you look at the postal votes, and Stephen Conroy, others on the panel, Peter and Andrew Clennell as well, have made the point that, you know, you can come home really strongly here on postals and pre-poll. But on the postals, I think it is worth repeating some of the mail I had before, that is, you know, of 18,000 postals, a third of those have gone through the Liberal Party. So people have got their postal votes through the Liberal Party. So that's 6,000 votes. That would indicate to you that at least a third of the postals are going to go the Liberals' way, and it could even be much higher than that. But Michael, it needs to be much higher than that.
So normally in an election, low 90s of the people vote. Out of 100% of the people eligible to vote in an electorate, roughly low 90s, 93, 95, 92, somewhere in their vote, depending on the circumstances. If the voter turnout is way below that, then that makes all sorts of conclusions about the result impossible, because it's who's not voting. 20%, if the turnout's low 70s, which 20% are not voting?
And what are they doing? Where are they?
Well, they're probably at home watching Sky. But are they Liberal voters discontent, can't be bothered? Is that one of the answers? You don't know. But look, with postals, I think we won 55-45 last time. So we'll probably win the postal vote. But with 3 booths in, with us not doing as well as I'd hoped, we need to up the ante a bit.
Yeah, look, it wouldn't be exactly heartening to see these results right now with these booths coming through and Labor up, almost 10% in some of the areas that they certainly need to win, because they're match booths, as you point out. Quickly, I want to just talk about the campaign, because Labor has really gone Peter Dutton here. They've talked about his time as Health Minister, not the other ministries he's held. And I don't think the Liberal Party have really tried to counter the funding scare campaign. Labor said, when he was Health Minister, funding was cut 16%. Well, that is a furphy, but they really haven't tried to counter that. The other thing that's notable as well is they've gone kind of presidential. They've attacked Peter Dutton. They haven't really gone Rashina Campbell and all the available advertising material. There were a few hit jobs. The one about childcare springs to mind as one of them. But on paper and in person, she is a brilliant candidate. She's a mother of 3. She's, born and has lived in Melbourne all her life. She's a family woman. She's a career woman, and she's willing to give politics a red-hot crack in an environment that isn't, not a lot of people want to get into politics at the moment. The vocation seems slightly tainted. So to give her credit for that, Mary Doyle as well on the same side, to run for politics is a pretty tough gig.
Well, Rashina Campbell's obviously a future Cabinet Minister if she gets elected tonight. I mean, I don't think anyone thinks otherwise than that with her background. Yeah, Laura, let's be frank about this. The Liberal Party generally are very weak at attacking Labor. We are miles behind
just
attacking
in Victoria?
Labor. Oh,
or
everywhere. Labor's dirt campaigns, dressed up as legitimate criticism.
I think they've been pretty good in the past.
They're wonderful.
Are you talking about locally or?
That's generally the underground campaign they ran against Scott Morrison for 18 months, never defended by any of his cabinet colleagues. I mean, the bucketing of Scott Morrison, doesn't hold the hose, etc., etc. There was very little defence of Morrison over that 18 months. And when you go to the polls, of course, people, on polling day, people repeat what they say, they vote according to what they've heard for the last 18 months. I was on Katie Allen's booth all day and people said, we don't like Scott Morrison. Why? Oh, well, that didn't hold the home. And Labor's campaign
To be fair,
was
a defence of Scott Morrison is pretty hard to counter against those pictures of the South Coast, the bushfire-affected areas, not shaking his hand. I mean, that's devastating.
Yeah.
Not so much the defence.
What, we can't think of anything to counter that? The Liberal Party can't think of anything to counter that? I mean, generally speaking, Labor play the man all day long, and they get away with it. The Liberal Party traditionally very weak on attacking Labor, in my view.